everyone, me again. In today's episode of Why Am I Like This, we're going to be looking at my eyeshadow palette collection. This has been requested for a little while now, and I think I've mainly been putting it off because I knew it would take bloody ages to film, frankly. So for those of you who are new around here, I really focus on drugstore makeup on this channel. I talk about affordable beauty, so most of my eyeshadow palettes are of course from the drugstore. I only have two high-end palettes. Today I'm going to give you an overview of my entire collection. I'm not going to sit here and swatch every single one and film pretty close-ups and stuff like that because I just do not have the time, but if I have other videos where I have swatched them or done a look with them, then I'll show the footage in this video. I'll have overlays of photos and stuff because some of them I have photographed for my blog or Instagram, whatever, and I'll leave the link in the description box to the full length video as well if you're interested in learning about one particular product. So first I'll show you a little clip of where I store my eyeshadow palettes. I kind of have them in the corner of the room just because there's too many of them to fit in my makeup drawers now. So they're just in these letter trays that I got from Primark. I think they're about £4 or £5 each. So on the left hand side we have my Revolution stash. I give them their own storage mostly because I have a lot of the chocolate bar palettes, I have a lot of the £4 palettes, and I like to keep them together because it looks nice. And then on the other side there's all my kind of one-off palettes. Anyway, I've got my cup of tea here because I know that this is going to be a really long video. I hope you've got a couple of hours to spare because we're going to be here for a while. Let's get into the video. So I'm going to start with my Revolution eyeshadow palettes because that is the majority of my collection now. I just really love their eyeshadow palettes. I find the formula to be really good for the price, and they release new products like every week, so really people like me who have no self-control really don't stand a chance. So first of all, let's talk about my £4 eyeshadow palettes. I've got quite a few of them, as you can see here. This is one of the first palettes I ever got from Revolution. I should probably mention, by the way, that some of these are quite old. Some of them I've had for a few years. I usually take eyeshadow palettes traveling with me, so some of them have been a bit battered over the years, but I promise none of them are expired. But anyway, this is their iconic free palette. I definitely have a video on this one, and it really doesn't look like much if I'm honest with you. It looks very muted, very pink, but frankly I'm a lover of neutrals and cool tones. You'll notice that within the rest of this video. This one is really perfect for everyday mauve toned kind of looks, eyeshadow beginners and all that jazz. I don't think they do that particular one anymore. I think they've replaced it with the reloaded iconic 3.0. So as you can see just by looking at it, a lot of the colours in here are very similar, and I've actually got a blog post about this one, and I've got some of the shades side by side and you will see it's almost exactly the same. And I even said in the blog post as well, I bought this palette because I thought that they would be sisters and they would complement each other, but actually they're twins and I don't need both of them at all. If I'm honest, I don't reach for this particular palette a lot. There's nothing wrong with it, I just have other things in my collection that I like a lot more. Another one of the reloaded palettes that is kind of okay but not my favourite is this one. This is their Fundamental palette. So you can see it's a nice selection of peach toned neutral shades. And yeah, I really like the colours. I just kind of struggle to make a look with this palette, and I think that's because there's no kind of highlight shade to really pop out in the inner corner. There's nothing that's really dark either. So I find that whenever I've tried to do a look with this, it's ended up being quite monotone. I don't think there are enough kind of like matte transition colours in here. I do really like the colours individually, I just find myself having to reach for another palette to wear with this, and I have other palettes obviously where I don't have to do that. But the formula for this one is really nice. It's got some of these kind of pressed shades. I don't really know how to describe them, but they feel a little bit wet to the touch, and they have such like a unique texture, and they look really sparkly and pretty on the eyes. So yeah, I keep meaning to try and wear this palette more, especially in the summer, because I feel like this is a really nice summery kind of palette. Yeah, I just don't reach for it. I think I would probably use this a lot more if they had a pink matte shade in here or a cool toned matte shade. So I've got two more of their reloaded palettes, and these two are probably my favourites. So the first one is Velvet Rose, which I've done a whole video on. That's actually one of my most viewed videos on this channel, so I imagine this is quite a popular palette. It's a dupe of the Sultry palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and I can see why it's so popular because I think a lot of people would know how to use this. It's got your beautiful chocolatey toned mattes, it's got some cool tones in here, it's got a very impressive massive gold shade, and again in that kind of wet texture that I don't know how to describe. But yeah, if you're a lover of smoky neutral looks, I think you'll really get on with this palette. I do really like this palette. I do wish there were some lighter matte colours in here, just because I'm so pale. I find that whenever I use this, it always ends up looking very smoky and very dramatic because all the mattes are so dark. This one is also quite dark, but I still really like it. It's the Provocative palette. This one's a dupe of the Urban Decay Cherry palette. It's really, really pretty. I honestly didn't think that I was going to buy this when it first came out because I wasn't really that fussed about the Urban Decay Cherry palette. But then I saw it in Superdrug and completely changed my mind. I don't know, it just spoke to me. I'm a big lover of cool tones, as I said, but also I'm having a bit of a purple thing at the moment. And this is a little bit brighter than a lot of the other neutral palettes in my collection as well. I do find that even though I still really love my neutrals, my looks have got a little bit more saturated over the past year or so. I am adding a little bit of colour here and there. But yeah, this is really nice. I don't think I'd spend, you know, £40 or whatever on the actual Urban Decay palette because a lot of the looks I do with this do end up being exactly the same, but I'm happy to get the £4 dupe, and this one performs really, really well. Next I have 6 of the chocolate bar palettes from I Heart Revolution. They are some of my favourite eyeshadow palettes. Whenever they release new chocolate bar palettes, I always look at them, and honestly, if I had the money, I probably would just buy all of them. I think my favourites are probably these two here, the Naked Chocolate and the Chocolate Cherry. So for a really long time this one was my favourite. It is unfortunately broken, as you can see. I took it travelling with me and unfortunately it didn't survive, but it's still a really beautiful palette and I still love using it. It's just a little bit more muted now compared to some of the other palettes that I reach for. You can wear this every day, you can wear it in the evening. I use this rose gold shade here quite a lot. That's got a really good dent to it already. That matte shade is also really nice in the crease. I love that one. That's a really good one just to set the lid. And I think these are like £8 or £9 each, so they're incredibly affordable. I do find these chocolate bar ones tend to be a little bit more consistent in terms of their formula and pigmentation, that kind of thing, than the £4 Reloaded palettes, but that might just be my imagination because of the pretty packaging, I'm not sure. So this one is probably my favourite palette at the moment of all time. It's what I'm wearing right now actually. This is their Chocolate Cherry palette and it's so, so pretty. I have a video on this as well and I just really love it. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention one of the really good things about the chocolate bar palettes is that they're all scented. This one smells like a really sweet cherry smell. I don't think my Naked Chocolate one smells anymore, but it used to have a chocolatey scent too. This palette here kind of sums up the looks that I'm going for at the moment. So again, they're neutrals but a little bit more saturated, and there is the pop of colours in here as well just to kind of brighten up the looks, take them up a notch if I'm feeling a bit more daring. But yeah, I am really, really into this one at the moment. I maybe don't like the packaging as much as the other chocolate bar palettes in my collection. I kind of prefer the kind of plainer ones that are like traditional chocolate colours. So I would have probably preferred if it was maybe brown and red, or brown here and then pink on the rest of it or something like that. But it's still an absolutely wonderful palette and I use this all the time. This one is called the Nudes palette and the smell on this one is absolutely incredible. I do really like the idea of this one. I'm very into, how many times am I going to say that I love neutrals in this video? But I do really like the colours in here. It's just that a lot of them do look exactly the same once they're on the lid. If you look at that shade and that shade, they all look a bit different in the pan, but I promise once you actually swatch them, all look pretty much exactly the same. And some of these matte shades look very, very similar once they're on the lid as well, like the two here. I can't tell the difference anyway when I put it on. I have used this in a video and I do really love the performance of this palette. The pigmentation is just superb. And I think this was one of the first palettes where they actually had the names on it as well, which I really, really like. But yeah, I just can't really do a lot of adventurous looks with this one because a lot of the shades do end up looking so similar. So yeah, it's very, very pretty. I think beginners, again, will really, really love this one. I personally don't reach for it. The next one is the 24 Karat Gold palette. This doesn't look like very much, but once it's on the lid, it does look a lot brighter and a lot more saturated than it does in the pan. There are some really beautiful golden tones in here. The shimmers especially perform really, really beautifully. I really love that green shade there. That's pretty much the reason I bought the palette, if I'm honest, because I just really love that beautiful sparkly green shade. I think this is a really nice summer or autumn palette because it's mostly quite warm. Very, very pretty palette. If you like warmer tone neutrals, you'll like this one. And then these are my older chocolate bar palettes. So we've got the I Heart Chocolate and Salted Caramel. I used to have another one as well. I think it was called Death by Chocolate, but I pretty much hit pan on all the good colours. So this is Salted Caramel. This one broke when I took it to Belgium with me. I think this is a dupe for the Too Faced. Is that called Salted Caramel as well? I can't remember. Nice warm neutral colours and a pop of blue right there. Really, really nice for the summer. Still has a nice smell even after all this time. I've had this one for a couple of years and it's held up surprisingly well. I don't reach for this one as much as I used to just because I bought this when I was a lot more interested in warm tones and now I reach for cool tones a bit more. But that doesn't stop it being a really beautiful palette. And then we've got I Heart Chocolate, which isn't quite broken but nearly is. This is one that I've had for years. I'll be honest, I really don't reach for this a whole lot. I kind of keep a lot of makeup that I don't reach for just because I have this weird hobby of making videos about makeup and putting them on the internet, and I kind of think, oh, I might need that for a video or a blog post or something, I don't know. There was a time though when I used to use this palette pretty religiously. I really liked the 4 kind of gold shades down there. That was kind of my go-to. The purple shades here are nice, but they don't perform as well as some of the other colours in the palette. I do think the Revolution formula has got a lot better. This is still really good, and they were the best on the high street anyway for the price. They've still got better over the last year or so. I also have 3 of the Regeneration palettes from Revolution Pro. I think I've got Get Ready With Me's with all of these. I have just filmed one for this one, so hopefully that's up by the time you watch this. I do have to talk about this one first. This is a really, really beautiful palette. This is the Trends Mischief Matte palette, and as you can see, some really pretty rainbow matte shades. Now you're probably thinking, what is a neutral eyeshadow lover doing with a rainbow palette? I don't know, I guess I just kind of wanted to make my looks a little bit more interesting. I don't mind when I'm doing my makeup on an everyday basis if my makeup always looks exactly the same, but I'm very aware that when you guys watch my videos and when people look at my Instagram and that kind of thing, they probably don't want to see the same or a very similar look time and time and time again. So I thought this might be a good way to jazz it up, and I do really like using it for that purpose. So mostly I wear this with other eyeshadow palettes, and that's what I did when I featured this in a Get Ready With Me. I've also used it when I've done more like adventurous editorial makeup on Instagram and that kind of thing. I think if you own a lot of neutral eyeshadow palettes, this might be something really nice just to have alongside it, so you can kind of mix the two together and make some really interesting looks. And the performance, again, is absolutely superb. This light blue is one of my favourite colours in the palette. I've been wearing this a lot recently. The pinks and purples in here are also really pretty as well. I've also got the Regeneration Astrological palette. I do have a video with this, and that, again, is a very popular video on my channel. This is a really, really beautiful palette, and this means a lot to me because I was given it in a kind of PR goodie bag when I went to a Revolution event last year in London. That whole night was just absolutely amazing, and Revolution are honestly my favourite brand, so I was just absolutely thrilled that I got to be there with a load of other bloggers. So yeah, this palette just kind of reminds me of that amazing night. I will of course mention in this video when there are any palettes that have been gifted to me. Most of them haven't. I bought like 99% of these myself, but this is one of the few that I was gifted. I'm under no obligation to feature it or any of the other palettes in this video, just FYI. Back to the palette. This is so, so pretty. They've got some really nice kind of pressed glittery shades, and they just look so, so stunning. They're so pigmented and they look really foiled on the lid. They're just incredible. So this is kind of a warmer neutral one, and then I've got this one here which is a little bit more cool toned. This is the Unleashed palette. So you can see there's a few more pinks in here, there's some cool toned golds and some purples over here. This is more of my kind of typical colour scheme. This is the thing that I gravitate towards most of the time when I'm doing my makeup. I do love this, but I wish it had some of the kind of pressed glittery shimmery shades that the other palette has. This one does have some shimmers, but they're kind of the standard shimmer formula, but it's still really beautiful. I have filmed a video with this one very, very, very recently, and I really like the look that I got out of it. That was just a very simple peachy tone look. I also really like wearing this matte colour here with this kind of cool tone bronzy colour over here all over the lid, and then I use one of the purples over here as like an eyeliner. But yeah, this is a really, really beautiful palette. Love this one. Next I have 3 of the Revolution Ultra Professional Flawless palettes. So these are the ones that have 32 shades inside. So this one's a bit old, but I really love it. This again is another battered one that's broken now, but this is their Affirmation palette. I don't know if this is still available, but I do really like the colour selection in here. Again, cool tone neutrals. Very basic, beginner friendly, but it does have all the shades that I normally reach for. So like the matte kind of pink shade there, that's the kind of thing I always chuck in the crease. These shimmery kind of pinky champagne colours, that's the sort of thing I throw on my lid every single day. And then the browns just to smoke it up or use as an eyeshadow eyeliner kind of situation. But yeah, still really like this one. This is another older palette. This is called Flawless. I have done a video about this one. I think you can still get it actually. This is also quite a neutral tone palette as well, but it does have some really nice pops of colour in there. I really like this palette in the autumn. I've had this for years now. I think I've had this for maybe about 4 years or something like that, but I still really love it. And there's another one with 32 shades as well. This is Flawless 4. It's got the rose gold lid, and I think this was in my full face of products that I don't reach for video because, as the name would suggest, I just don't really reach for it a lot. Even though it does have a lot of really nice colours, I think I just get a little bit intimidated by the kind of neon section over here. I think the main reason I don't reach for it a lot is because there's not really that many lighter toned matte shades that I like to use on an everyday basis. I do need some lighter matte transition colours in there. There's actually another one of their Ultra palettes with the 32 shades that I just completely forgot about. This is their Flawless Matte palette. Same layout as the other 32 shade palettes I've shown you, but this one is all matte colours. I like to mix this with other palettes that maybe don't have the transition shades that I want to complete my look. I don't really wear this on its own, but yeah, it's really nice for mixing with other palettes. If you've just got any palettes that you feel a little bit stuck with, this is a really nice one to throw in the mix. And then I've got 2 of the Revolution collaborations, and I have videos on both of these. So the first one is the Petra palette. Very pretty. This one's broken as well just because I'm clumsy, but you can see there's one side with warm tones and one side with cool tones. Guess which one I reach for the most. But actually both sides of this palette are really beautiful, and you could quite easily mix the 2 sides together as well if you really wanted to. I do have a video of this, but I kind of forget that I have it actually. I should really reach for this more often. Very pretty, would recommend. And then this one is a lot more colourful than some of the other palettes I've shown you today. This one is the Kami Make Magic palette. I've got a video on this as well, but I really do like this palette. I love the formula. It's got 6 of these, again, wet feeling kind of eyeshadows at the top here. They're very unique, but honestly, I pretty much bought the palette for the 3 blue shades up here. I absolutely love them. I've been wearing this blue one a lot. Absolutely adore this palette, well worth the £10. And then the next Revolution palette I have is, I think, possibly the oldest eyeshadow palette that I have in my collection. This is their What You Waiting For palette, and I'm pretty sure that I got this in maybe 2014, something like that. I think I've had this for a while, but this was my jam. So even back then I was really into my cool tone neutral shades, but yeah, this is still to my taste to the day. I also have 2 of these empty palettes from Revolution Pro as well, but not all of the shades in them are actually from Revolution. So this one is almost finished, but it's not quite finished yet. I'll probably do a whole video on this or a blog post on this when it's complete. I've actually done my first ever order with Colourpop, and there's a couple of matte shades in there that will really finish off this palette, so I'm kind of waiting for that to arrive, and then I will talk more about this, I promise. If I'm being really honest with you, this palette is just for the shades that won't fit in the other one that I don't reach for as often. This one is my last Revolution palette, but I do have some Obsession palettes as well, which are kind of under the same umbrella. So this one is their Mermaid's Heart palette. I should mention, I didn't buy this. You know how they sometimes have those offers where if you spend over £25 you get £25 worth of free makeup in like a goodie bag? This was in one of those goodie bags. I would never normally buy a palette like this myself, but when I got this as a free gift, this was around the time that the Blue Blood palette by Jeffree Star had just been released, and everyone was living for blue eyeshadow on Instagram, and I was kind of thinking, I don't think I really like it, but I don't know for sure because I haven't really tried blue eyeshadow since I was in like year 9. So yeah, this just gave me a chance to experiment a little bit, and it's very pretty, and I really love this shade. I know it's the neutral one and it's boring and it's the same as all the other shimmery shades that I love in all my other palettes, but it's so pretty. Look Look at that, that's one swipe. Like, the formula of this palette is absolutely astonishing. I know I love Revolution formulas anyway, but this one especially is just so pigmented. Just glides on so easily. There's really no effort required, even with the matte shades. So I'm onto the second storage box right now, and at the front of this box I keep all my smaller palettes. The ones that are kind of like this sort of size, really. I've got 3 of these tiny little palettes from Collection. I absolutely love these. I think this one is discontinued, unfortunately. This is their Little Mix palette that came out years and years ago. I've got a Your Style, Your Mood palette. You've got the greeny bronze section and then a pinker, more cool tone section. There aren't really like enough mattes in here to make a complete eyeshadow look, but I still love using this in conjunction with other palettes. And then this one is probably my favourite Collection one. This is their nude bronze palette. Absolutely love these colours. This bronze shade here I really love, and this pink also I really like. You can see the formula is just so incredible, especially for a drugstore palette. Again, you do have to kind of mix this with another palette, like the matte palette, to make a complete look, because this is just shimmers. If you're like a beginner and you don't really have a lot of makeup, you could easily just put your bronzer or your contour shade in the crease and put one of these colours on the lid and you'd be done. That would just be a complete look. Maybe put a little bit of your highlighter in the inner corner and that would be it. I also have this eyeshadow palette from AliExpress. This is from the brand Focaccia. I don't really want to show you this too much though, because I'm doing a full face of AliExpress makeup in a future video. So I haven't really like worn it or tried it out or anything because I'm saving it for that video. I think you'll really like these palettes. These are some really beautiful eyeshadow palettes that I got from the brand Beautonomy. So if you follow me on Instagram, you might already know this, but I worked with Beautonomy earlier this year and I basically worked with them in exchange for free products. It's a really nice service because you can completely customize the palettes. This one's got my name on it, and then you open it up and you can pick the shades inside. So when you get the palette, the price does include the shades inside, but you can swap them out with other magnetic pans from any brand that you like. But this was the first one I did. You can see it's a really nice everyday one with some pinks and a bronzer in there. And then I got one that was just eyeshadow. I went for a plain marble cover on this one. And this one's a really cool toned palette. So you've got your golden side here, and then your kind of pinky purple side here. And then I got this one which says My Face on it. I designed this one when it was the beginning of summer, so I went for a really warm toned palette with a nice pop of blue. You've got your eyeshadows there, and then a bronzer, a blush and a highlighter. If you are interested in trying Beautonomy, by the way, I do have either a special link with them or a discount code, I can't remember, but I will leave all of that stuff in the description box below so you can get a little bit of money off. That's an affiliate link, by the way, so I will earn a cheeky little bit of commission, just a heads up. So I think this has about a £25 value or something along those lines, which, considering you get to customise the palette and you get to pick your own shades, I don't think that's too bad. Then there's one of my 2 higher end palettes. So this is Stila in the Light. I'm pretty sure it is discontinued, but it's so beautiful. It's an absolute classic. I wanted this for years before I got it. My friend Natasha was having a clear out and she never used it, so she kindly passed it on to me. It's one of the happiest moments of my life. But again, this is the sort of thing that I would happily wear on an everyday basis. I have taken this travelling a couple of times and I got on really well with it. I'm trying to go through these reasonably quickly so that we're not sat here all day, but the next one is the Maybelline Burgundy Bar. I have a video on this too. This one is mostly shimmer shades, so it's only got 2 mattes, which are the ones at the end, and then the rest of them here are all really intense shimmers, so the formula is absolutely stunning. It's unlike anything I've ever seen at the drugstore. They're so pigmented, so pretty, really easy to apply. And I love wearing this in like the autumn winter months because it's definitely that kind of classic autumnal colour scheme, or just any occasion where I fancy a really sparkly shimmery eyeshadow. I do think it's a bit too expensive for a drugstore eyeshadow palette. I can't remember how much it is. I feel like it's about £12 or something along those lines, and I don't really know if this is worth £12. I didn't pay £12. I got it for maybe half that price from beauty outlets. Heads up, this one is discontinued, I know for sure, but this is the Tanya Burr Too Tempting eyeshadow palette, and this was one of her Christmas collection products from not last Christmas, the Christmas before that, I think. I do have a face palette from them as well, but I'm trying to skim over face palettes in this video just so that this video isn't a million years long. If I'm honest, this isn't something I reach for a massive amount. It's just that I have other ones that are a little bit more special, that have a bit more going on, more shades, you know, but it's still really pretty. I do like the packaging and how it's just so travel friendly. It doesn't look anywhere near as battered as some of my other palettes, but yeah, I just don't reach for this a lot, unfortunately. There's a palette from Obsession called Love Every Shade. So this is another one that I didn't buy myself. If you remember, I was talking about the Revolution Halloween party and the PR bag I got. This was in that bag as well. So this is another gifted product. I still really quite like this. Again, I wouldn't have bought it myself necessarily, just because it is a little bit warmer, but it's also a little bit, you know, plain, a bit neutral, a bit everyday, a bit similar to shades I've got in dozens of other palettes at this point. But it is really nice, and I think what I really like about this is that if you're traveling, this could possibly do like your entire face. I mean, it would kind of depend on your skin tone, but you could potentially use that shade as a setting powder, or maybe that one or that one if you've got a deeper skin tone. On me, that shade right there is a really nice contour. Depending on your hair colour, you might be able to use one of these or a mix of the two for your eyebrows. And if you apply it very carefully, you can make this one work as a blush. The formula of this one is actually really, really impressive. So I absolutely love the shimmers in here. They feel so, so pretty. Revolution and all of their kind of sister companies like Obsession and I Heart Revolution, they have some really incredible shimmer shades in all their palettes. I've got another one from AliExpress here. This is the You Can Be Aromas palette. I did a video all about this because it's basically a pretty much spot-on dupe for the Huda palette. The shade selection in here is absolutely beautiful, and I'm not just saying that because it matches my shirt. I really genuinely love it. There's some really, really beautiful shades in here. I really love these light coloured mattes at the end over here, and that pink shimmery shade right there is absolutely stunning. I'll be honest, I don't really reach for the pressed glitters an awful lot. It's not that I don't like pressed glitter, it's just that I don't typically wear red eyeshadow really at all. I really, really like this one. And then this one is newer in my collection, so I don't know if I want to save this for a video. I'm trying to like save up a load of new makeup to put it in another drugstore first impressions video, but I don't know when I'm going to have like a full face of drugstore makeup, so I might just give it its own video or a blog post or something. But yeah, this is the Essence Eye Flirt palette, and I bought this because I've had individual Essence eyeshadows in the past, and oh my god, I absolutely love the formula. It's completely stunning. But yeah, I was kind of hoping that the formula would be the same as their single eyeshadows, but so far the shades have been a bit meh, just from like, you know, a bit of light swatching and things like that, but I haven't given it a proper try yet, so I can't really say for sure. I do really like the colour story though. That's pretty much the reason why I bought the palette in the first place. Lots of cool tone neutrals again, but with a nice mix of golds in there too. So I will try this out at some point, either in its own video, or I'll write a blog post about it, or save it for a full face of first impressions or something, I don't know, but it will be up somewhere at some point in time. After that, I've got my kind of customizable palette things from Obsession. So I have the smaller one with like the everyday kind of shades that I reach for a lot. I think this kind of format is discontinued, but you can still get it from the outlet on revolutionbeauty.com. What I really like about this is that you can just swap out all the colours. So at the moment I've got a more kind of warmer mix of shades in here, but previously I had a more cool tone selection. And then I've got a bigger version, and then this has just got all the other colours in one place, and I just kind of swap them out depending on what mood I'm in. I have a little eyeshadow palette from MUA. Honestly, I don't know if this is worth talking about because this was limited edition and only like 7 people probably have one. It's a very pretty layout, but the formula itself is a bit so I won't go on about that one too much. This is another one from AliExpress. This is another Huda dupe. So this one's from Beauty Glazed and it's called The Perfect Mix. So you can see they haven't quite got the colours as close to the Huda palette as the You Can Be one that I showed you, but the formula in here is still really nice. The palette is overall a lot warmer, so I don't really wear it that often compared to the You Can Be palette, but the colour selection is nice as long as you're not looking for a dupe of the Huda Beauty palette. And the formula, again, really lovely, really pigmented. The shimmers especially are absolutely stunning. So yeah, absolutely lovely palette. I just like the You Can Be one a little bit more. This is my other high-end palette. This is the original Naked one by Urban Decay. May it rest in peace. I absolutely despise the packaging. I don't know who thought the velvet texture was a good idea and why they decided to keep it after making all the other palettes into tins. I I'm not quite sure, but I still absolutely live for this colour selection, even though it definitely needs some more mattes. Like 2 just isn't enough for any look nowadays. I still really like this. It still has a place in my heart. It doesn't look like I've used it, but I promise I have. I use this all the time. It's just that you really don't need that much product. You just need to tap your brush into it because it's so pigmented. I really like the shade Sin, which is a nice light pink colour. The shade Sidecar is one of my favourites. It's an absolutely stunning bronze colour, and the shade Toasted up here as well. If you do want a dupe for those shades, then pick up the Collection Nude Bronze palette because they are very, very similar, and the performance of this Collection eyeshadow palette is so good considering it's like £4 or something like that. But yeah, you can see they definitely took inspiration from this. Really love both palettes. This next palette is kind of shoved right to the back of my storage because I just don't really reach for this a lot. It's the NYX Love Contours All palette, and when I first heard about this, I really liked the look of the palette. Right, I'll show you. So I liked that you had face shades and some eyeshadows, some eyebrow powders, and a big massive mirror in here. I just thought this would be the perfect palette to take like on the go with me. But once I actually got it and saw it in person, the shades in real life look so different to how they look on the internet, honestly. They kind of wash together a lot, if that makes sense. I don't really know how to describe it, but also the kind of highlight and the bronze shade here are a little bit odd. Like this highlight is a really kind of pinky duochrome colour that I don't think a lot of people really like. And then that bronzer here is really dark. I could use that as an eyeshadow actually, but I don't. So yeah, I think they kind of missed the mark with this one. I really like the idea of it, and I really like what they were trying to do. I just don't think they quite got it this time. I have 2 palettes from Profusion that I did share in a first impressions video. So the first one is the Glam Face Tin, which I do really like, but just keep forgetting about. It just looks like this. You've got eyeshadows there, you've got eyebrow powders here, and then you've got a kind of highlighter blush combination here, and a brush that I will never use. But yeah, if I'm honest, I haven't really reached for them a lot since I filmed my first impressions video, just because I have Revolution palettes that I think are a bit more interesting, that I like better, and a lot of them are cheaper as well, so I feel more comfortable recommending those to you guys instead. I also have this bigger palette called the Pro Face palette. It's been a while since I used it, if I'm honest. It didn't blow me away, but it is really good just for the money. And I think if you did travel a lot but still wanted to have, you know, a good selection of looks, you might really enjoy this. Again, I just prefer the colour selection and the formula of my Revolution palettes. Okay, this is the last eyeshadow palette. Well done if you've made it this far to the video. I know we've been here for a while. This is the La Roque Beginners Collection. I got this on Fragrance Direct for a really cheap price. It was something like £5 or £10, and it looks like this. It looks exactly like one of the Morphe palettes. I don't know the name of it because the names are all really similar. I definitely wouldn't get the Morphe one just because a lot of the shades, again, they're not the same colour, but they're very similar, and they're all exactly the same tone. So there's no kind of bright shades to really highlight the inner corner or to just make the lid pop a little bit more. There's no really deep shades to smoke out the look or use as an eyeliner. They're all kind of the same tone, but just slightly different colours. It is kind of difficult to make looks with this, even though there are so many shades, just because they're all so similar. Yeah, if you want me to do a proper in-depth review and attempt to do a look, then let me know. And that, my friends, is my entire eyeshadow palette collection for now. You know what I'm like, I'll probably buy another one in like a week. So as you've gathered by now, most of it's from Revolution. I really like Revolution, I really like their formulas, and a lot of you guys really like them as well. I know that because the videos that I do using those palettes tend to get more views. I hope that everyone who requested this video has really enjoyed watching it. I know that a lot of you are probably going to think that I'm a hoarder and that I'm absolutely mental for having so many eyeshadow palettes and that I don't need this many eyeshadow palettes. You're right, I don't. Anyway, that's enough rambling from me. If you guys want to see like reviews, tutorials, blog posts, etc. of any of the products featured in today's video, some of them I might have already done, so I'll leave the link to anything in the description box below. I actually have a playlist of eyeshadow palette reviews that I'll link down there, but anything that I haven't done yet, feel free to request it and I will add it to the long list of videos that you guys want to see. That's everything from me today. I've been talking for like an hour and my throat is drying up and it's a million degrees in here, so I'm gonna go. I'll see you guys next Sunday at 9 AM. Bye!